The Titanic Story, The True Journey of Hope, Fear, and Survival. Part 1. The Dream Ship. In the early years of the 20th century, the world was changing rapidly. New inventions were transforming human life, cities were growing, and people believed that the future would bring endless possibilities. Among all these dreams, one idea captured the imagination of millions: building the largest and most advanced passenger ship ever created. This dream became known as the Titanic. The ship was designed to represent luxury, strength, and human achievement. Engineers, workers, and designers spent years creating a vessel that many people believed was almost impossible to destroy. The Titanic was built in Belfast, Ireland, by thousands of workers who carefully shaped every part of the giant ship. It was more than just transportation, it was a symbol of progress. Inside the ship, passengers found beautiful rooms, grand dining areas, comfortable cabins, and modern facilities that were rare at that time. People from different backgrounds boarded the Titanic. Some were wealthy travelers looking for a new adventure. Others were immigrants hoping to start a new life in America. Every passenger carried a different dream. Some carried memories of the past. Some carried hopes for the future, and some did not know that their journey would become one of the most famous stories in history. On April 10, 1912, Titanic began her first voyage from Southampton, England, toward New York City. Thousands of people gathered to watch the great ship leave the harbor. Nobody knew that this journey would become a lesson remembered for generations.
As the Titanic moved across the ocean, life on board appeared peaceful and beautiful. The wealthy passengers enjoyed elegant meals, music, and comfortable surroundings. They walked through the impressive halls, talked with friends, and admired the endless ocean views. For many first-class passengers, the journey felt like a celebration. They believed they were traveling on the safest and greatest ship ever built. But far away from the luxury areas, thousands of other passengers had different reasons for being on the Titanic. Many third-class passengers were immigrants traveling to America. They dreamed of finding jobs, building homes, and creating better lives for their families. Some carried small bags with their most important belongings. Some carried letters and photographs of loved ones they left behind. The Titanic was not only a ship, it was carrying thousands of human stories. Among the passengers were people from many countries, different cultures, and different social backgrounds. Everyone was moving toward the same destination: America. During the first days of the journey, everything seemed normal. The ship moved smoothly through the cold Atlantic waters. The crew followed their routines, and passengers enjoyed their days. The captain, officers, and crew members believed they were operating one of the finest ships ever created. However, the ocean contained dangers that no one could fully control. The Titanic received several warnings about ice in the North Atlantic. Other ships reported seeing large areas of ice floating in the sea. The messages reached the Titanic, but the ship continued its journey. The night of April 14, 1912 was calm. The sky was clear, and the ocean was unusually quiet. Many passengers were sleeping peacefully. They had no idea that this night would change their lives forever. Late that evening, the Titanic continued traveling at high speed. The crew members on duty carefully watched the ocean ahead. The darkness made it difficult to see far into the distance. Then something appeared in front of the ship: a huge iceberg. The warning came too late. The crew tried to change direction, but the massive ship could not turn quickly enough. A collision happened. At first, many passengers did not understand what had happened. Some felt a strange movement. Others noticed the ship slowing down. The great Titanic, once believed to be unstoppable, had met a challenge from nature, and the most difficult moments of the journey were about to begin.
After the collision, the Titanic continued moving forward for a short time. Many passengers did not immediately realize the seriousness of the situation. Inside the ship, people were still talking, walking, and enjoying their evening. Some believed the strange feeling was only a small problem that would soon be fixed. But the officers and crew members quickly understood that something was wrong. Water had entered parts of the ship. The people responsible for the safety of the vessel began inspecting the damage. They checked different sections and tried to understand what had happened. Slowly, the truth became clear. The Titanic was seriously damaged. The ship that represented human confidence and engineering achievement was now facing a disaster in the middle of the cold Atlantic Ocean. The captain and officers began making urgent decisions. The wireless operators sent emergency messages asking nearby ships for help. At that time, communication technology was still developing, and sending messages across the ocean was a major achievement. The distress signals carried one simple message: the Titanic needed help. Meanwhile, the crew began waking passengers and asking them to prepare. At first, many people were confused. Some passengers did not believe there was real danger. They had heard that the Titanic was extremely safe. They believed a ship of such size and strength could not sink. But as time passed, the situation became impossible to ignore. The crew members started organizing people toward the lifeboats. The lifeboats became the only hope for survival. However, there was a serious problem. The Titanic did not carry enough lifeboat stays for everyone on board. This decision would later become one of the most discussed parts of the tragedy. Passengers gathered on the decks. Some were calm, some were frightened, some were trying to understand what was happening. Families stayed together. Strangers helped each other. In those moments, people showed both fear and courage. The cold night air surrounded the ship. The ocean was dark and endless. Far away, the lights of the Titanic continued shining, while the ship slowly faced its final hours. The engineers played music on the deck, trying to keep passengers calm during the terrifying situation. Their actions became one of the most remembered examples of courage from that night. As the hours passed, the ship began sinking deeper. The world outside still did not fully understand what was happening, but the Titanic's final chapter had already begun.
The night became colder as time passed. The passengers standing on the deck looked out into the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean. The stars were visible above them, but around the ship there was only the endless sea. The Titanic, once a symbol of human achievement, was now in a desperate struggle. The crew continued helping passengers move toward the lifeboats. Many people still found it difficult to accept that the ship was truly sinking. They had started their journey believing they were traveling on one of the safest ships ever created. Now they faced an unexpected reality. The lifeboats began leaving the ship one by one. Many difficult decisions had to be made in a short amount of time. Crew members tried to organize the evacuation, while passengers searched for their families and loved ones. For some people, the journey had started with excitement and hope. Now it had become a test of courage. Stories from survivors later showed many different reactions. Some people remained calm and helped others. Some searched desperately for family members. Some were unable to believe that their voyage could end this way. The ship's wireless operators continued sending messages into the night, hoping another vessel would arrive in time. A nearby ship, the Carpathia, received the emergency call and changed direction to help. But the distance was great. The rescue ship was still far away. Time was running out. As more water entered the Titanic, the ship's condition became worse. The lights remained on for a while, creating a strange contrast between the beautiful glowing ship and the danger surrounding it. Many passengers spent their final moments together. Some prayed. Some comforted children. Some simply stood quietly, watching the ocean. The officers and crew continued their responsibilities until the very end. Their actions became part of the story remembered around the world. Eventually, the Titanic could no longer remain above the water. The massive ship that had begun its voyage with thousands of dreams was slowly disappearing into the ocean. The final moments were filled with sadness, bravery, and unforgettable human experiences. The Titanic sank beneath the Atlantic Ocean in the early hours of April 15, 1912. The survivors in the lifeboats waited in the darkness, hoping that help would arrive. The ocean became silent again, but the story of the Titanic had only just begun, because the world was about to learn what happened on that night.
The lifeboats floated in the dark Atlantic Ocean as the survivors waited for rescue. The night was quiet, but the people in the boats carried the memories of what they had just experienced. Many passengers looked back at the place where the Titanic had disappeared. Only hours earlier, the ship had been full of lights, music, conversations, and dreams. Now it was gone. The survivors faced a long and frightening wait. They did not know when help would arrive. They did not know if another ship had received their message. But in the distance, hope was coming. The RMS Carpathia was traveling through the ocean toward the Titanic's last known location.
The crew of the Carpathia knew they had to move quickly. They pushed the ship through dangerous waters, avoiding ice fields and trying to reach the survivors as fast as possible. After hours of waiting, the people in the lifeboats finally saw lights approaching. It was the Carpathia. The rescue had begun. The crew of the Carpathia worked to bring survivors safely aboard. People who had lost everything were finally given warmth, food, and shelter. Many survivors were still trying to understand what had happened. They had started their journey expecting a normal trip. Instead, they had become witnesses to one of the greatest maritime disasters in history. When the Carpathia arrived in New York, thousands of people gathered to hear news. Families waited anxiously for information about their loved ones. Newspapers around the world reported the tragedy. The sinking of the Titanic shocked people everywhere. Many questions were raised. How could such a famous ship sink? Why were there not enough lifeboats? Could the disaster have been prevented? Investigations began after the tragedy. Officials studied the decisions made before and during the accident. New safety rules were created to improve the protection of passengers on ships. The Titanic disaster changed the future of ocean travel. It showed that even the most advanced technology could fail when humans faced unexpected challenges. But the story was not only about a ship. It was about people. People who showed courage. People who helped strangers. People who faced fear with strength. The Titanic became more than a historical event. It became a story passed from generation to generation. A reminder of dreams, mistakes, bravery, and the power of the human spirit.
After the Titanic disaster, the world continued to remember the events of that cold April night. The story did not disappear with the ship beneath the ocean. Instead, it became one of the most famous stories in modern history. People wanted to understand what happened and why such a tragedy occurred. The Titanic had represented confidence and progress. Many believed that new technology had made humans powerful enough to overcome almost any challenge. But the disaster showed that nature remained unpredictable. The ocean was still powerful, and human decisions still mattered. Investigators studied every part of the journey. They examined the ship's design, the actions of the crew, communication systems, and emergency procedures. The tragedy led to major improvements in maritime safety. Ships began following stricter rules. More attention was given to emergency equipment and passenger protection. The lessons learned from Titanic influenced future generations of shipbuilders and travelers. But beyond the technical lessons, the Titanic story remained powerful because of the personal stories. Every passenger had a name. Every passenger had a family. Every passenger had dreams. Some were traveling for business. Some were traveling for a new beginning. Some were returning home. The Titanic carried people from many different backgrounds, and their stories showed the diversity of human life. Over the years, books, documentaries, and films helped keep the memory alive. The ship became a symbol of ambition, hope, and tragedy. People continue to ask questions about the decisions made that night. They studied the bravery of the crew members. They remembered the passengers who helped others. They honored those who never reached their destination. Many years later, the remains of the Titanic were discovered deep beneath the ocean. The discovery brought new attention to the story and allowed researchers to learn more about the ship. The Titanic was no longer just a shipwreck. It became a historical symbol, a symbol of dreams, a symbol of human courage, a symbol of the importance of preparation and responsibility. Today, more than a century later, the story of the Titanic continues to touch people around the world. Because at its heart, the Titanic story is not only about a ship, it is about humanity. It is about how people respond when they face the unknown, and it is about the stories that survive long after the moment has passed.